They grew up with a bad mindset on money. They saw their parents fight, a divorce situation happened. And so they run away from that their whole entire life. We bring in a behavioral psychologist is because I have to understand what your subconscious is doing so that the system itself that we provide actually works. And if we don't do that, the system's probably not going to work. If I don't know you as a person in a deep, deep level, and my behavioral psychologist doesn't teach you who you are, which oftentimes people don't know who they are, you're gonna fail. You're gonna fail because you're gonna revert to the person that you've always been for whatever reason, good or bad.
What's good, fatherhood? It's Rob Bill Jr., Uncommon Dad here. Welcome to Uncommon Dad Work Podcast with special guest today, Brennan. And Brennan, before I even say it, how do I say your last name?
Schlagbaum. Nobody
Schlagbaum.
gets it. Don't feel bad.
I'm just going to let you lead with it. I'm just going to say Brennan, husband, father, CPA, national bestseller, and founder of Budget Dog Academy. And I have to say, I've been wanting to have Brennan on for like a year now, and I just reached out to him to do it, and it lined up. I went through Brennan's 3-day workshop about a year and a half ago, right before we had the massive cancellation moment over here and our financial picture changed in a scary way. And I have to say that applying all of Brennan's principles helped us keep our head above water and to keep all of the things that make this family comfortable over here. So I have to give you a massive thanks, sir, because without your wisdom and your systems, I don't know that we would have been able to navigate it in that way. So thanks for being
Appreciate
here,
you,
man.
man. Glad that you guys were able to take care of that.
Mm-hmm. So I want to dive straight in and ask you, we're just going to give you some tee up easy questions and it's kind of dumb questions, but what is it that you do?
Yeah, so I work with people in personal finance to keep it very short. That's my elevator pitch. And that can range from a lot of things. That could be, hey, I'm looking to pay off debt. I'm looking to build my investments. I'm looking to maximize my situation. I'm looking to be financially free. I want to quit my job. There's all sorts of things that people want to do with their personal finances. And if you have and build a system with your personal finances, everything else can kind of take care of itself. So whatever goals that you have, and I listed some of the common goals that I get from people, I can then take that and systematically prepare you for that goal and then line you out in basically step by step format to figure out when you're going to be able to accomplish that goal. And I think a lot of things with personal finance, where the confusion lies is it's all theoretical. It's all like potential, maybe in the future. And it's never like a hard, like set number or date or timeline. And that's where people go wrong. And so what I try to do is make that very simple. If you want to quit your job, if you want to become financially free, if you want to hit a millionaire status, like all of those things are fine. Nothing's get rich overnight. It's going to take some time, but we at least can know the pathway to that process. What are all the inputs? What's the output you're going to get at what particular time? And when we do that, a lot of people get that assurity and they start to feel more confident about their approach. That's exactly what we do in a nutshell. Of course, that expands upon multiple different things that we do, but at its core, we're just giving you assurance and exact roadmap, step by step performance to get you where you want to get.
Yeah, I know that we, applying these principles, we paid off about $30,000 of debt really quickly, which was freaking awesome. And
Amortization schedule.
it's everything because it not only relieves financial burden, but it relieves an emotional burden. And I know, speaking for myself and the guys that are here, is yeah, we want to pay off our debts. We want to have more financial freedom, but more than that, we want our wives to be able to stay at home with the kids without having to think about it, without her being in her head as like, well, maybe I should get a job and like contribute in some way. We want to be able to take the kids to whatever we want to take them to, homeschool co-ops, all of that fun stuff. And that's really what we want, is we want to be able to be that financial rock and open up the opportunity for our wife just to have her absolute best life, and same thing with our kids. And maybe like having $1 million would be cool, but more than that, like we want to provide. And what really drew me into you was your story. I saw all that stuff weaved in there. So I wonder if you could bring us through your story. And there's so many financial coaches out there. And I look at it and I'm like, yeah, okay, dude, nice Mercedes that you're driving and like you're putting in all your posts. That's great. But your story was so real. So I'd love to ask you just like, how did you get here? Why are you doing this for guys like
Yeah.
me?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's so organic, and that's what I like about that, and I think that's what you feel when you come and, go to an event with me, is like, I didn't let me put it this way, like, when I think about business, quote, unquote, of what I currently have, I didn't start it with the intention of, like, building a business. That wasn't really what my focus or intention was, because I was a CPA at Deloitte for 7 years. So I was at Deloitte working my CPA career. No one in my family was entrepreneur. I didn't even consider that a remote possibility. I went to school my whole life. That was my career. I was working my way to partner. I hit manager status along the way. I was basically a step between that and partner. So like that was my trajectory. That's what I expected. All of this stuff on the side was just totally organic and just raw. And what happened was our personal finance situation at 23 years old, I was in $304,000 of debt. That's included in my mortgage, $228,000 of mortgage debt, and then $76,000 of non mortgage debt. And we graduated college, my wife and I, and we realized like, wow, we are like not what we expected to be in position wise. And I was a CPA, so I knew the numbers behind it. I understood it. And I was working at Deloitte, like I said. So I worked with the biggest Fortune 500 companies in the world, Vanta, WorldPay, you might know it now. I worked with so many different huge companies. And I saw there was a common consistency, like with what they did from a personal or from a financial perspective. And that's what I was focused on, their finances. I was like, why can't I just take that approach, apply it to a personal level, and then we get out of debt, we build wealth, do all these things? Because I wasn't brought up with education of finance. Like my parents today, I love them, but if I ask them a question like, "Do you know what a Roth IRA is?" They wouldn't know. And so I just self-taught myself all of this stuff. And obviously, I had some career backing to put it all in perspective. But I started doing that process for ourselves with my wife. And when my wife and I started being able to see the success from that system that we kind of built, it was very just whatever, Excel template here, this here, whatever the heck there. What I realized was if I piece this all together, I could probably help a lot of people with this because I just realized how much debt we paid off, $76,000 in 1 year. We started building a lot of wealth at a fast rate. We didn't have like a huge income. Like I made $50,000 out of school. My wife made 42, combined 92. Pretty good income as a joint couple at 23 years old. But it wasn't anything like I wasn't making $500,000 like a lot of people assume. And so we just really got intentional, very system based. And as that process went, we became obsessed with that process. My wife obviously always sees a lot in me before I see stuff in myself, and she was like, "Hey, you need to go share this with people." I'm like, "Oh, nobody will care about this. Like, it's just let's keep it personal. Like, I don't want to share all these details." And she was right. So she told me to get on Instagram. I had no idea what I was doing. I wasn't a social media individual. I just started sharing our story, and everybody started getting results. I literally did 40 hours of free consultations per week for about 6 months straight when I first started, and I got zero in return. That wasn't my goal. I was just like, hey, I loved it. It was lighting me up talking about it. And I saw the results, and then people started like, I didn't have enough time in the day, literally between my job, between all of this. And so I had to put a price on it. I started charging for it. I started systemizing and making it a little more legitimate versus just like kind of my way of doing things. And I'm my strength in this world and my talent is system oriented thinking. How can I get somebody the same result I got myself is what I started thinking. And that's where Budget Dog Academy came about, which was the roadmap. I even wrote the national bestseller right here, the roadmap to financial freedom. It's in line with everything I talk about. Is it literally how can I provide the same roadmap I provided for our family for thousands of people? And I did that thinking, oh, this will help some people, hopefully the people that are reaching out. And I was mistaken of like how many people I could help. To the point that today we technically speaking have an unlimited capacity to bring people in because we can scale the company with individuals on the back end and the pieces I put together so we can help as many people as possible theoretically. Of course, we don't bring on that many people, but we built a system in which it's very scalable, even if I were to die and pass away. And that's what I wanted to build. I wanted to build something that outlasted myself so that it could help tons of people down the road and it's not reliant on myself. And that's what I did with the system oriented thinking. And that's what I did with the roadmap. And that's where this all came about. It was just very raw. At one point during that journey, I realized I got to stop. I got to quit my 9 to 5 job and pursue this a little harder. That was a big jump. That was a very scary jump. I was not ready for it. Emotionally, Numerically, I was. Emotionally, I was not. My wife told me again, "Hey, quit your job, do this." I did. There was a lot of anxiety in the beginning. A lot of I wasn't getting that paycheck every 2 weeks like I was used to. The formality of just a 9 to 5 job, like it was my schedule was all wonky. It was very different. I'm very type A. So to see all this change right in front of my face was crazy. Then 3 weeks later, my daughter was born. And so there was a lot of change. It was awesome. Lots of change very quickly. 5 months later, she had her first seizure, which was a big deal and a huge revelation of what we found. She was diagnosed with Dravet syndrome. And so, like, all of that stuff came so quick. I had to find a way to get my wife out of her 9 to 5 at that point in time because the initial thing was I was gonna take that jump from my 9 to 5. We were gonna do this slow and steady, but nothing in our life has been slow and steady since. And, I said, "Well, I gotta get her out of her job, make sure she can stay home with Logan because she has Dravet syndrome, like, she's gotta be 24/7 with her." And so during that time period, it was essentially number one, I had to watch Logan throughout the day and build my business so that my wife can then quit her 9 to 5 so that she can stay home. So for about 8 straight months, I had to find, my mind started going crazy of like, how can I make this happen? How can I make this happen? How can I make this bigger? And so just the more and more I systemized the business as a whole and turned this in from an idea to a real business, the quicker I moved. And so then 8 months later, my wife was retired from her 9 to 5. She was able to stay at home. We moved down to Texas, literally across the country for the best healthcare. It was such a quick change, in such a good way, obviously. But yeah, that's really where it came. There was no like specific timeline or like specific game plan for this. It was just so. It's kind of how I'm explaining it. Even it was just so like random, so all over the place, and I just made it work. And now my wife has obviously been at home since 2022. Now it's 2026. It's been awesome. We've hit financial freedom. We've done all sorts of things. We've helped 3,000 plus families. It's been amazing. It's been an amazing journey, but I can't say I expected any of this to happen.
Mhm. What do you see as the biggest problems that we're running into in terms of, I don't wanna say managing our finances, but I feel like it's probably deeper than that. But yeah, what do you see as the biggest problems that we have?
It's all emotional. Like everybody knows the math. Everybody can open an Excel spreadsheet. Even if you're not Excel literate, I can make you literate in Excel in about 5 minutes. Like you know what a calculator is. Like none of that stuff is holding people back. And so what we focus on in the academy and what we've grown this into is so much bigger than the numbers and the system side of things. Like that's an important piece. You got to know the actual answers. I think part of it's knowing the answers, piecing it all together, but you all can do that. Anyone listening to this can do that. They all have the capability of doing that because math is math and like everyone knows how to put together math. Once that part is in place, I think what derails most people, the majority of their lives, are the emotional side of things, which is could be a it could be that could range into millions of things because the brain's very complex. Common things, they procrastinate because they're nervous, because they're scared. They grew up with a bad mindset on money. They saw their parents fight. A divorce situation happened. They saw it was because of money. And as a result, they retreat. They don't like to address that issue. And so they run away from that their whole entire life. What I always say and why we bring in a behavioral psychologist is because I have to understand what your subconscious is doing so that the system itself that we provide actually works. And if we don't do that, the system's probably not going to work, just being real. Like everybody has a budget template out there, everybody has an amortization schedule, everybody has these things. Education's out there for free, technically speaking. You can educate yourself, you can put together somewhat of a plan. Our education goes a lot deeper, our system goes a lot deeper than that, but even that, if I put that in perfect scenario situation, if I don't know you as a person in a deep, deep level, and my behavioral psychologist doesn't teach you who you are, which oftentimes people don't know who they are, you're gonna fail. You're gonna fail because you're gonna revert to the person that you've always been for whatever reason, good or bad. And that usually plays out in a even if you have a good quality trait, like for example, you're a go-getter, you're excited all the time. You might be one to take huge chance on personal finance and risk a lot that more than you can really handle and then lose it all. I've seen that type of personality play out real time. You also might be the avoidant behavior. You're scared to look at your finances, open your bank account because it's an intimidating thing. It reflects you as a person. You attach your value to your bank account, which you shouldn't. But we do. We do that stuff. Your net worth isn't where you want it to be. My net worth was negative net worth before when I started. So I always laugh and say, if you guys feel any shame right now, point and laugh at me because I don't take any shame in that. Like I'm okay. I can soak it in. I was at a negative $8,000 net worth. I don't attach my value as a person to my net worth. And so I like to bring the behavioral psychology side of things into it so we understand who we are. There was a study done at University of Scurry that was 88% of our daily actions are built by our subconscious. That's a huge portion of our day that is based on our subconscious. If we don't tap into ourselves as people, we are letting our subconscious run on autopilot the whole day, and basically our situation, our outcome is going to be because of our subconscious. So why would we not address that? Why would we not attack that? That's most of your life. And so that's what we really, really focus on in the get go, in the beginning. We know you're going to go through emotional cycles of change. There's going to be like the high, then there's going to be the valley of despair type stuff. We want to make sure that's as seamless as possible, you understand yourself as best as possible, and that we have action items from that takeaway to that we can apply to your situation to feel better about moving forward with the actual financial system, which then we put together to, that makes all the sense. That's really what we do. That's why it's so important.
Hmm. What are some of the things that have the biggest impact for people on that mental and psychological side?
It's awareness, purely awareness. So if you don't know that you're like, I get a lot of people coming to me and they'll be like, my dad or my mom growing up always would say, money doesn't grow on trees. A lot of
I
people
heard
have
that.
heard that stuff. Or, hey, you got to work really hard for your money. That's training. And it's not that is wrong, technically speaking. Like you have to work hard or something like that. But that's training the mind to think of a specific way about money. And so I know money differently. I know personally, the way I think about money is that you can create abundance of it. When you have it, you can also generate more money through fruitful ways. And it doesn't always require hard work. In fact, a lot of the money beliefs that I have are a lot different than somebody who thinks like that. But somebody that thinks like that is going to approach money a lot differently. Do the actions are going to be a lot different that get to them to that quote unquote wealth stage. And in order to get to that wealth stage in the most efficient way, you have to understand and have awareness of what those things are so that you can get around those hurdles that are actually holding you back. I have a lot of people that believe billionaires are evil. Maybe some are, but I'm sure there's a lot of poor people that are evil too. So if you believe that all billionaires are evil, guess what happens? You think that money's evil. And as a result, you don't want to bring money into your life. And therefore you don't think money's a good thing. If you start getting money, you subconsciously sabotage yourself. Oh, I'm going to become evil. I'm going to become a bad person over time. Not necessarily. It just amplifies who you are. So those types of beliefs, if you don't have awareness on those, you can't then take the proper actions to then get around. Similar to like I go to the gym all the time. That's a big thing in my life is fitness. If I go to the gym and I'm not aware that I'm overweight and I just walk into the gym and I don't know about what I should be doing. I don't know. I don't get on the scale to figure out where I'm at. I don't know where I'm supposed to really be headed. I'm just going to the gym because people told me I should go to the gym. I'm probably not going to go do the most efficient workout to get to the most optimal result. In fact, I might be lifting weights, which might put more muscle on that might not take me down in the weight I want to get if I'm, trying to lose weight. If I'm trying to gain weight, if I go do a bunch of cardio and I do no weightlifting and I have a caloric deficit, I'm probably going to lose weight, more weight than I was intentionally trying to, do. So you have to know where you're starting, your starting point. I always call the scale is the financial scale is your balance sheet, like where you're starting. That's a negative $8,000 net worth for me. That's where I started, but you don't know. Everyone's different. Where are you starting, and also where are you trying to get to? Truthfully, like don't just tell me you want to make $1 million because. What do you really want to do with your life? What are you really trying to get out of this? Are you trying to quit your 9 to 5 to live a more purposeful life? Are you trying to have your wife stay at home like I did in my situation? Are you trying to give back your talents and time because you need money to do that? What are you really wanting to do with your life? And there's no shame or blame here. It's just like, what do you want? And then let's find an optimal path based on where you're sitting, where you're trying to get, and how can we get you from point A to point B in the most optimal way based on your situation? That's not always just purely financial bro math, which I like to say. It's really understanding you as a person taking away those subconscious things that are limiting you, giving you action items to get around those things, and then building a system that gets you from point A to point B in the best way possible. That's ultimately what we're trying to do.
What are some of the biggest mistakes that we're making that you see people making when they come in and they start doing this?
It's a good question. There's a lot come to my mind off the jump. I think not educating yourself or committing yourself to the process is a big one. I just got off IG Live talking about this. Is that when I go through a process of education with people, a lot of people are like, "Oh, I know some of this stuff," but a lot of this stuff is like brand new to them, and it's like I didn't know the level of depth that you actually went on this educational side of things, and I didn't realize how much this was actually impacting me. So they're not able as a result to understand the impact of the decisions they're making right now. Let me give you a good example. I just got off the phone with an individual that had an individual index or a target date fund that had a 27 basis point or 0.27% expense ratio. I explained to her what the outcome was of that fund long term. Here's what you're looking at long term. Here's the potential comparable. That difference was a $3 million difference. It's not that she didn't realize she was a little above the rule of thumb I talk about. She didn't realize that turned into $3 million over a 30-year time period. It's not that they don't know they're doing something wrong a lot of times, or they know they're not optimal. They don't realize how big of a deal that is and how much that actually creates over time. And that's the beautiful thing about compound interest. And if you understand the fundamental concept of that, it really does result in large differences long term. So part of it's not being able to weigh based on lack of education, the mistakes they're making, what does that actually cost them? Because in financial world, you might be paying a 0.5% fee or 1% fee, and you think of that as zero point 0.5 or 1%. That really might equal 28% of your portfolio over a lifetime. You have to understand and be able to connect those dots. That's the biggest mistake I see a lot of people making if I were to boil it down to one thing.
It's lack of education, and then also lack of understanding over what the impact is over the long term,
Yes.
is what I'm hearing there. Okay. So where do we begin? Where
Good
do we
question as
start?
well. A lot of people come to me and ask that question. They're overwhelmed, they're anxious, they're nervous, they've lost their confidence to be able to do this because they've tried a budget template, they've gone online, they've Googled stuff, and it feels like it consistently reverts. What I like to do within the program and why this is so effective, why we get the best results because we understand everybody starts somewhere different. And so when we can meet you where you're at and we understand, okay, you're here, this person's here, it doesn't matter where you are. We know where you're at. We can then meet you where you're at. We can take you through the journey, the gaps that you're missing in a very easy sequential way that you feel confident. We get it's every single day we get 5-star reviews on our trust pilot walking through like, man, I feel just so like even outside of the numbers of the net worth wins, I just feel more confident. I just feel better. I just know I can do this myself. I had somebody literally submit that this morning. I can read you verbatim what they said this morning. If I pull this up, we just got a 5-star review. Actually, it was yesterday at 11:44. Budget Dogs training has been a fantastic experience for me as I make short term and long term for me and my family information or long term I don't know what that means. The information they provide, though, is accurate, breaks down complex financial situations, the easy step by step guides for the average person. The accountability and clear forms have been incredibly helpful in our way to building wealth. I know my future wealth will grow because I have a solid plan, greater understanding. I'm avoiding unnecessary expenses, and my overall confidence is a 10 out of 10 for the first time in my life. Highly recommend this process for the immediate and long term training and impact. That's a good example of like what we get on a daily basis because it's not just like if you're beaten down your whole life and you're really talented in something, you obviously have the skill set to do something, but if you don't pursue that thing because you're beaten down your whole life, you're never going to really experience the outcome of your talent. Lots of people don't make it in them, in sports world or the business world because their confidence has been beaten down. So the first step is building that confidence up, building the education up, meeting you at where you're at, and then walking you through all the steps that we go through. If you were out there and let's say you don't go through the program, so you're looking for that first initial step, I would say it's very point blank is addressing your subconscious, number one, which is hard to do without a real behavioral psychologist. I get it. Um, Number two is build a system, which let's just put it in very easy layman's terms. You need a balance sheet, what you're worth right now, net worth, understanding your net worth, a budget, knowing your ins and outs, your cash flow. How much cash flow do I have coming in? How much do I have going out? What's that gap? That gap should be where you're investing your money or what you're putting that extra and pursuing your goals. And then the third thing is if you do have debt, which would show up on your balance sheet as your liability, you should have an associated amortization schedule. The amortization schedule should then list out your debt timeline with principal, interest, timeline, all the details of that debt. You should have a waterfall analysis of all of those. And that's from a technical perspective how it would start.
Hmm. So starting with our our balance sheet, getting clear on what our budget is, what our gap is, what's left over, as well as net worth, and having that amortization schedule based on how much that we have in debt that we're looking to pay off, and looking at the long term picture of that. Then,
Yes, sir. Exactly.
all right, man. So when it comes to building a budget, and I still have guys that are like, I'm 45, I don't have a budget, and I'm like, bro, what are you doing? Where do we begin with that? Because that's still a thing that is nebulous for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. I like to walk people through again, awareness is always the first step to anything that you're going to have success with. So when I think of awareness for budgeting, I think of let's actually see what we've done. Let's go back 3 months. Let's do a 3 month look back. Let's see what the actual picture is, and don't judge yourself. Don't beat yourself up about this. We have a free AI tool that does this for you, but you can literally just pull your bank statements and ultimately your credit cards, see what is actually went out of your account, categorize those in general, budget categories. Food could be, you could break it out by groceries and eating out, or just food in general. I like just to do food. And you can break out all your budget categories. Let's call it 20 budget categories. Don't go crazy about this. Just summarize what you've actually done. That's going to be an eye-opening experience. Our average student finds an extra $2,000 per month. When they go through that process, it's not that they are cutting everything in like everything they see. They're just understanding their values no longer align with the spend they've always kind of generally done. They've spent things because they haven't been really intentional about that process. It could be things like going on vacation because, my best friend asked me to go on a vacation. I'm just going to say yes. It's like, are you being intentional about your life? Intentionality, awareness, all of this stuff comes into play when it comes to money. And so when you're intentional and you're aware, you're going to see what you actually spent. You're not going to judge yourself. You're not going to shame yourself. You're just going to say, hey, this is what actually happened. Now, how do I fix it? How do I improve upon it? You're going to have the list of your 20 budget items. Let's call it 20, 30, whatever the case is, maybe even less. And you're going to say, in this category, what can I adjust in my lifestyle to change what's happening in this picture? So it's more so like not just a technical number exercise, but really thinking about your day to day life. Like a lot of people will not be intentional about their food they eat. And so they'll just eat out whenever they want, whenever they feel like it, because they kind of have a credit card ability to swipe. The kids are busy on a Wednesday night, so they just stop through Chick-fil-A or whatever the case is, and they just do whatever and anything. And then they look at that and they're like, actually, I don't, I want to eat healthier. I want to be more intentional about my meals. So they start meal prepping, or they start, having specific times for meals, and they're committing to that process. And as a result, you see their budget costs go down because they no longer go out to Wednesday night Chick-fil-A just because they're busy and they're running around with their head cut off. They start to become more intentional about their schedule with all of these things because now they're planning all of this stuff a lot better and a lot more effective. And so then you systemize that into your life, you normalize those habits, and all of a sudden your costs go way down as a result, oftentimes. And so when you have that 3 month look back analysis, which I think is one of the most powerful eye opening tools in the beginning, the next step is just adjusting your lifestyle to account for that. And some of those categories can be increased. I think that's the common misconception with budgeting is a lot of people hold themselves back because they think, oh, this means cost cutting. This means sacrificing. This means getting rid of. You don't need to get rid of this stuff. Sometimes like for example, fitness or health, maybe you bump that up because you want to get, peptides into the mix. That's a hot thing right now. Or you want to get, a supplement routine into the mix. Whatever you want, it doesn't matter. It's aligning those categories with your life and not judging yourself as a result, because When you spend in line with your values, you should be able to spend unlimited amount of money, technically speaking, because you'll be able to make money as a result because you're in a better spot. It's a crazy phenomenon I see a lot with my students that a lot of people from the outside don't quite understand until they experience that process.
I know that, well, I know that. It's so important that you have some kind of vision for what you want to do with your life.
Everything.
Without that, and you said this multiple times, you're just living unintentionally, just totally unintentionally. And that's how we get into messes with our health, with our relationships, with our finances. So, one, we have to have the vision for where we want to go, and we have to, well, be honest about whether or not our values align to the vision of the life that we want to be living now and that we want to create for our wife and for our kids. And then we got to look at our 3 month look back. How often are we doing this 3 month look back?
We're doing that one time in the beginning. We're not gonna do this consistently because once you start the process, it's really just a month look back. You're looking at your actual spend that you actually now have a system for. It's a lot different. But you're not downloading bank statements and doing all this stuff every single, month or whatever the case is. That's just in the beginning stage. And then you're starting to systemize a real monthly budget that takes no more than 30 minutes a month if you do it right.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we've got our 3 month look back and we look at, oh wow, yeah, I was just going out to eat because I was busy and we were just defaulting to that. And look, we found an additional $2,000 because of that and just shit that we were buying on Amazon, which can happen really easily in this house too, because everything's
Very
just
quickly.
listed as
Amazon
Amazon.
Amazon could maybe I could charge them rent they're here so often.
Man, yeah. Yeah, it's really easy to click that button, and then when you look back at your bank statement, just be like, "Oh, it's all Amazon. I don't even know what it is," and just forget about it.
Yep,
Um,
common.
so we find money, and then we have to adjust what we're doing in our life. We have to adjust what we're taking action on, the things that we're doing unintentionally, and that we're going to begin doing intentionally. And maybe that means that we don't spend money out at McDonald's or Chick-fil-A as consistently. But maybe we do put more money into health. Maybe we do put more money into taking our wife on a date once a month, whatever that is, whatever aligns with your values and the life that you're creating. So then, oh, where did it go? Where did it go? I had a question. It ran away.
Does that a lot. We were talking about intentionality, we're talking about goal setting, peptides.
Peptides, working out, supplements, all of the going on dates, all of that fun stuff. So how do we have our 30-minute, there it is. We have our 30-minute money date once a month.
Yep.
What are we doing in that 30-minute money date?
Yeah, so most of the systems built on, like, not a monthly assessment. So, like, for example, your balance sheet, you don't need to update that every 20 days or every 10 days. Like, you can do that every quarter. I do that every, 3/31, 6/30, 9/30, and 12/31. The amortization schedule, once you build that, it's there. You don't need to do much with it. You understand the timeline. You just look at it for maybe excitement, adrenaline, whatever you want to look at it for. And then the budget is that monthly in and out. Now we have an AI tool that makes it a lot simpler for a lot of people. Is like it basically brings everything into the spreadsheet based on your banks and just auto categorize everything for you. So you're just the manager of your money. If you use that, it literally just is an assessment every single month. If you don't use the AI tool, what I always recommend is just have some sort of an app that's attached to your bank that summarizes all your totals by the same categories that are in your budget itself and take the total, put it in there, mid month and then end of month, maybe 15-minute exercise for each of those, and then just assess what you've actually spent. And if you are within threshold, which we always create like thresholds for each category and overall, I always say don't like become obsessed with like looking at a spreadsheet every day. Like my goal isn't that. Create a $500 threshold, let's call it. If you're within $500 of what you expected versus whatever, and whatever that number is for you, you can select your threshold. Ours is $500 personally. If we're within that, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to go look at each line item. If I blow that threshold by $2,000 in a given month, I'm like, okay, where was that? What happened there? that's what those money dates are like with your spouse. I highly recommend to do it with your spouse because if you are just doing it by yourself without your spouse's attention, you're not going to be as powerful as if you do it together. That's just a law of, the universe maybe. And so the more intentionality you have in the household together, the better result you're going to get. And a lot of times these monthly money dates become fun conversations because you guys are within budget. You think and plan about the future. You start to talk about your goals more. And it just becomes another step in the right direction versus like a spreadsheet conversation, which a lot of people don't like.
Yeah, it becomes exciting. You look forward to it, and I one thing that I always like to do is I always like to make sure that it's fun. Like we're gonna go out and have coffee together, or we're gonna go out on a date, and then we're gonna talk about this stuff as well. It
Hmm.
becomes something that's fun. It becomes something that feels good. It becomes something that we look forward to instead of this dreaded, like, oh, we're gonna look at these spreadsheets. We're gonna talk about that $500 overspend.
Yep. 'Cause that creates resistance. That creates a lot of resistance, and we have the behavioral psychologists that will address those things. We've had people I'm not a marriage counselor by any means, but we've had people repair relationships after 25 years of not talking about money together because you're creating a different dynamic when those conversations occur that are way more positive versus, "Oh, I'm gonna dread those conversations. I don't wanna even have the conversation," and we avoid that as a result.
Hmm. So once we have our budget, once we have our system in place, we've got our 30-minute money dates each month to make sure that we're on track. And then when we have a $2,000 overspend, we're like, what happened here? We can actually look at it and make that adjustment together. What's next? Because we've got debts, we've got things that we want to do, vacations we want to go on, things we
Yep.
want, places we want to take the kids. Maybe it's like, well, we have a Jeep, we need to get a minivan now because now we have more kids. Whatever it is, what's the next step for us?
So the cool thing about this is, and I very simplified the system that we have, but we do what's called a cash flow goal worksheet. And so what that is in the very initial steps, we list our goals out. I have my whiteboard right behind me, which I like to use every single day for every goal to be very intentional. But this is just an Excel sheet, of course, and you list out your number of your goals. You without any money attached to them, without any dollars attached to them, you realign those with your spouse based on the value you have. You value stack those, and then we have a process in which we get to a monthly amount. And sure, I'll summarize this for you. You get a summarized monthly amount of each one of those goals. You tie that back to the total cash flow, that gap we talked about earlier that we have available. And then we just start to go down the line and assign yes, 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 yes. If we have a deficit, we obviously have to look back at those, of which ones most are important. What out right now? Do we move on a goal another year or two to extend that and make that more doable right here and right now? Do we get rid of goals, et cetera? We also might have a surplus, which is a situation a lot of our students have because they realize how much money they actually have in their situation. In that situation, they say, where else do I want to allocate more money? Which goal do I want to speed up at a faster rate? Once that's set up, the cool thing about it is that you automate all of this. So if you have a debt pay down, you automate the additional principal payment that you've already allocated through this cash flow goal worksheet. So let's say it's an extra $250 to your student loans. That you go into your portal, you automate that process that becomes a regular budget line item of $250 extra to your student loans. Boom, that's automated. You don't do anything. A vacation, a car, all of these things. Sinking funds is what you would have for those. So you would have a sinking fund that's set up effectively for, I know I need a car. It's going to be worth, $30,000 in 2 years. $30,000 divided by 24. I put that in a savings account. I automate that amount. Boom. That's in action as well. So once you set those up, once you set those monthly amounts up, you get to that granular level and you automate that. The great thing about this is you don't have to do anything. I have a lot of students almost confused by how easy this becomes. And I like to, this is why we have so much effectiveness with it, is because a lot of people get to the point where, like, I just had somebody hit $1.5 million. His name's Kirk. And he goes, man, I'm growing so much wealth. He came in at like $600,000 net worth. He grew to 1.5 million over like a 2 year period. He's like, I'm growing a ton of net worth, a lot of wealth at a quick rate. Everything's automated. I don't spend much time per month. My spouse and I have done this for quite some time, 24 months and counting. We know what's coming out, going in. Like there's nothing like crazy month to month. What do I do next? And that's a real, I literally, that's like the win for me. I'm like, "Perfect, you're exactly where I want you to be. You get to go experience life and do whatever you wanna do." Like, that's where I wanna get everybody to. You can go do charity. You can go spend time with your family. You can go give back. You can go selfishly on a vacation whenever and wherever you want. You can go work out middle of the day. You can do whatever you would like to do, and you ideally put your and build a life around that. I think what's really cool, and I've experienced the same thing myself, is when you get to that point, it's awkward, it's uneasy because you've never been there and most of society hasn't been either. And most of society will never reach that point because most of society will go through that 9 to 5 job their whole life because they're not building a system to get them to that point. So therefore, they're never gonna be able to relate to you. They're gonna always work that job. They're always gonna have the boss to tell them where to be at what time. When you're building a life like this, it's very intentional, and that's an almost an uneasy, uncommon type of thing that happens. And that's where it becomes a beautiful life that you can build yourself, and that's where I wanna get everybody to. Ultimately, that's, like, the passion behind what I do. A lot of people can do it, but a lot of people won't.
Mhm. Yeah, it's all of a sudden you've shifted out of that, "You have to work hard and that money doesn't grow on trees" story that you've been living your whole life, and now you're here and you're like, What do I do now? What do I do now?" Well, you can do whatever you want, man. Do you wanna go work out? Do you wanna go hang out with your kid? You wanna homeschool your kids? And, like, let's go.
Exactly. We're homeschooling over here, we love it.
Mhm. What curriculum you guys doing?
So my mom is doing all that, the curriculum stuff. They're only 4 and 2, so
Yeah.
technically speaking, they're a little young, but they just started like a couple weeks ago. It was kind of in the beginning of this year, and I don't know what the name of the curriculum is or whatever, but I see them out in my
Mhm.
main room doing stuff. They sometimes go to my mom's house, and sometimes they come here, but it's been awesome, and I love the idea of homeschool. I think we grew up in a generation where the homeschool was the weird kids growing
Yeah.
up, and I think that's shifted so crazy. My wife and I were talking about that the other day. It's like, if anything, the public school kids have become the weird kids to a certain extent. There's been a huge shift in dynamic, and like obviously that's not true all for either side, but like the at least the general like societal is I was my wife was telling me millennials really believe our age millennials are really in belief with homeschooling. It's a lot different nowadays just because of the craziness that goes on out there. So it's a really cool experience. I really like it. Obviously, a big, the reason we did that in the beginning was because the Logan situation with Dravet syndrome.
Yeah.
She couldn't go to school actually. But we've continued for our 2-year-old, technically speaking, and we just love the idea of it.
So, yeah, Logan's your oldest, your
Logan's
four-year-old
4
daughter.
and Ellie is 2.
Ellie is 2. Amazing, man.
Yeah.
My son is Theo, he's 5. He started kindergarten back in December, and
Yep.
he's close to done with it. Like, he wasn't ready in October, he wasn't ready, and then he's something in his brain shifted, and he's
Yep.
just on now, and he's
Love it.
crushing reading, and the thing that was scary for me, because I have never been good at math in my life before this, is that he has math brain.
Mm.
He has math brain. We can ask him addition,
He can help
subtraction.
you out.
He just knows it. It just boom, it just comes out, and I'm like, "You didn't have to pause to think about stuff." It's so cool to see.
That's
And
awesome.
then my daughter's 2.5, so close to the same gap, and she just, like, sits and watches him, and I'm like, "You gotta watch out because she's learning everything that you're doing now, and, she's gonna catch him." It's so cool. It's so cool, and I think that you're right on, and obviously we're homeschooled too, so we agree, but I think the future is homeschool kids. I had Matt Boudreau on. I just posted his podcast last Saturday, 2 days ago, running Apogee strong, and all the time, kids coming out of Apogee are starting businesses at, like, 12.
Easy.
They're starting
I
their
love
own
to hear it.
businesses, making their own money at 12, like, organizing their own finances, all of that stuff. And imagine how different it's gonna be for your kids, not just to have that, but to have you being able to influence them with what you're talking about here. Like, they're
I
gonna
love
have
it.
such a different financial legacy and competence and confidence because of that.
It's a huge portion of what we do. I mean, like, I sometimes I sit them on my lap in right where I'm sitting, and I walk them through what I'm doing on my computer. I'm like, "Hey, guys, we're buying you." I know they're 4 and 2, but, like, just getting that talk and conversation in there. We're buying dividends, we're buying assets, or we're getting back dividends, we're getting assets, and we'll pass a building that we own in Texas area, and I'm like, "Hey guys, we own that building. You know that? That's mom and dad's. We own that building, and you're getting paid a paycheck to own that building." And just explaining those small concepts about money early on, of like that's what people that have wealth do, is something I didn't grow up with. So it's cool to kind of see that transition and giving that and building that confidence within. Because I again, like I always tell Erin, my wife, who I see them walking on my street right now. It's funny. That's the beauty of this life right now. They're walking down the street with Gigi. Um, but as they grow, I want to give them the ability to live the life they want to live. And if that means don't go to college and build their own business at 12 or whatever the case is, cool, they can do it. And I can support them. I can guide them, and that would be an awesome outcome. If they want to go to college, they want to do something else, cool. We also can do that as well. Like I want them to have more flexibility and optionality than I did growing up. Is I was just always told to go to college, which isn't a bad outcome, but I was just told that's what I did. I never thought and explored my creative side of my brain. I was like, that's where I go. And I was very type A naturally. So if I don't get my creative brain, I'm in type A. And then that means I'm going to go in a very sequential path, which I don't want them to be limited to. And I think that's going to be one of the coolest aspects of this.
Where I don't know if you've thought about this, clearly you've thought about it a little bit. Where would you start kids with financial education? I know I'm a big fan of Relentless Betrayal clothing company, and they send, pirate doubloons with
But
each
yeah,
of their merch. 2 years ago, I started Theo with that. I was like, "This is a little money for you. You get this for doing contributions around the house. I saw you do this really awesome thing. Here you go." He has a little bank now, and he gets to come with me to the bank and deposit his money, and then we keep that written out for him. And I have
yeah,
a certain amount that he keeps in his savings, and he
hmm,
he buys things for us and for his mom and for his sister for holidays. Where would you
that's
start
awesome.
kids with this stuff?
Man, this is such a good question because, like, you know what? I've ever since working with Heather, who is our behavioral psychologist, and learning about all the subconscious patterns that are created out of good, actual, intentional effort. Um, I'm always concerned about forcing anything upon them, which is interesting because I'm usually a pretty like decisive individual that's like, hey, do this exactly. I kind of like talk about the ideas, the concepts, and invite them into asking questions, and then kind of taking it from there versus saying, "Hey, this is what we're gonna do in this household. Like, we're gonna do X, Y, and Z." Like, I grew up in like one thing. The only financial literacy I did get was it was pretty helpful. Was I had chores like $5 a week or whatever, and when I did my chores, I actually did them. We would put $2 in savings, $2 in I think it was spend, and then like $1 in tithing, which is like church. And so that would taught me how to like take the money I earned and put it into different buckets, which was helpful. Definitely. That was definitely something helpful. But I don't know what's the best approach. I'm gonna be totally honest, even as a financial mind and stuff like that. I don't know what the best approach. I almost think it's different for each individual. And I don't want to lock them into saying, hey, this is it's kind of like I always go back to this. I watch the book where you won't teach a monkey how to swim, and you wouldn't teach a bird, or a bird would obviously fly, so you wouldn't teach a bird how to climb. So I kind of think of it like that. Like every kid is so unique and so different. I want them to come to me, and I want them to ask questions, and I can guide them using my expertise into the right vehicle versus saying, hey, every kid should go to college. Every kid should do this. Every kid should do that. I don't know if there's a right way. Like, I really don't. And I've created educational content for kids where I explain bank accounts. I explained a checkbook. I explained, savings, investing at a very core level. We have educational content on that, but I don't know if like every kid should take the same path. And maybe this is something that is an iteration through a very organic way of when my kids grow up and I start teaching them, maybe I can build something that's going to help a bunch of other kids go into the same direction. But I'm not there yet, to be honest. They're 4 and 2. We do talk about stuff from time to time, but I don't force it down their throat or make it the only point of conversation. Like there's much more than money, but it's definitely part of the natural conversation, if that makes sense. So it's just normalizing it, I think, and
Yeah.
not making it a weird thing or too intense thing for a child.
Yeah, it's you have to follow where their interests are, and you have to follow their energy with it. Sometimes in the middle of a lesson, like my son is just clearly done, and it's like, well, I guess we're done with school. Like, go jump on the trampoline, man. And then other days, it's like 2 hours. He's like, "Can we do more?" My wife's like, "I don't know. I guess we will because you're in it and you're rocking it right now."
Yeah,
And it's all listening to them. And my kids, they do really well with rewards. They love rewards. And I'll ask them like, "Do you want some pirate money? Do you want chocolate chip? Like, what do you want for this?" And sometimes my son's
mhm.
like, "I want some pirate money." I'm like, "All right, let's go get it. Let's deposit in your bank." And you can do whatever you want with that. If you want to buy your sister hot chocolate when you guys go out, if you want to save it for mom's birthday, you can do anything that you want. And it's just following his lead and then directing him from that, right in alignment with what you're talking about there. I love
That's
that.
awesome. Very cool.
All right, man. We're coming close to time here. Anything else that we missed? Anything that I didn't ask that I should have?
No, I think we covered a lot of stuff. I mean, I think it was good organic conversation versus like a, you know, drawn out exact question by question or anything like that. So there's nothing we necessarily missed. I mean, I would think anybody listening to this, if you're struggling with money in any sort of way, just realize like you're not the only one. Like it's very normal. And most people, I would say most people struggle with money. I mean, 78% live paycheck to paycheck. So if you ever have questions, just feel free to like send me a message on Instagram, email me, whatever you guys need to get support, and I'd say that's what I wanna leave you guys with.
Can we find you on Instagram? Where can we email you?
Yeah, so Instagram is budget dog, no underscore, no weird we have a lot of fake accounts out there, so be careful. Um, and then they might message you if you hit the wrong account or you follow me, then a bunch of other fake accounts will follow you, just a heads up. And, email is brennan@budgetdog.com.
Awesome. All right. And then any other programs that you have coming up that we can get involved in?
Budget Dog Academy is my main one. Obviously, we have the national bestseller I kinda shared earlier, The Roadmap to Financial Freedom. We also have Six Figure Freedom sitting right here as well. This is a great book. They're all great. They're all great resources. I have YouTube. I have a podcast, Money on My Mind podcast on all platforms. I have my YouTube under Budget Dog, my Twitter, all this kind of or X or whatever. So it's everywhere, man. Like if you want to find me, you'll be able to find me. And just send me a message if you ever want to get involved.
Awesome. All right, brother. Well, that's it.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. It was a
Yeah,
pleasure.
appreciate it, man.
And everybody else that's listening, thank you for being here and have an amazing day. Peace.